The session is now called to order. Please all stand for the singing of our national anthem.
Bayang magiliw, perlas ng silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, buyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupit, di ka pasisilil, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong paghaw, may nilang ang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal, ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagdidinig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pang may magdidilim, lupa ng araw ng walang aming pagsinta, buhay ay langit sa piling mo, aming ligaya na pag may mga apit at mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Heavenly Father, we come before you today with hearts filled with gratitude as we begin this first session of Congress in the new year. Thank you for the time of renewal we had over the holidays, a chance to rest, reflect, and reconnect with our loved ones. Refreshed by those moments of peace and joy, we return with a renewed sense of purpose to serve our country and our people. Lord, we are mindful that we only have 12 days of session at this plenary, a crucial yet fleeting opportunity to pass priority measures that will benefit our nation. Grant us the wisdom and focus to use this time wisely to fulfill the responsibilities entrusted to us. As election season approaches, we ask for your grace to foster peace and unity among us. Help us rise above political colors and differences, working together with integrity and compassion for our collective mission to serve the Filipino people. Guide our hearts and minds, Lord, so that our discussions and decisions reflect your will. Bless our efforts, renew our commitment to good governance, and remind us always that our work is a calling to create a brighter future for our country. We entrust this session and all that lies ahead to you, O Lord. May your presence guide us, inspire us, and bless the work of our hands. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Happy New Year to all of us.
Mr. Speaker, the roll call shows that 200 members responded to the call.
With 200 members responding to the call, the chair declares the presence of quorum. Majority Leader, Happy New Year.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I move for the approval of the journal of the previous session.
Is there any objection? The chair here is none. The motion is approved. The reading of the said journal is dispensed with, and the journal number 29, dated December 16, 17, 18, 2024 is hereby approved. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend session for a few minutes.
Session suspended.
I move that we now proceed with the reference of business and request that the Secretary General be directed to read the titles of bills and resolutions of first reading as well as communication and committee reports.
Thank you, Majority Leader, and Happy New Year. Secretary General, please proceed.
Reference of business, bills on first reading, House Bill 11226, protecting the rights of indigenous peoples affected by mining operations in ancestral domains, by Representative Yap Eric.
To the Committee on Rules. Thank you, Secretary General. Majority Leader, please.
Mr. Speaker, we'd like to acknowledge the guests of Representative Honorable Attorney Jervil Jinky Beatrix R. Luistro. These are four-piece barangay parent leaders from the municipality of Bawan, Batangas, namely Shirley Sandoval, Heidelin Abanes, Emerly Magat, Maricar Adante, Mary Rose Arias, Gladilyn Javid, Marilu Moratillo, Rica Nika Labinghisa, Esther Caringal, Maricel de Guzman, Gorgonia Bengua, Ronaldin Caringal, Emily Saise, Cherry Ann Marasigan, Carmely Apostol, Mary Ann Sacris, Rosalie Arban, Rosa Joy Brucal, Rosa Ruby Rosales, Dabeline Sequia, Maria Muriel Servilla, Annabel Macalili, Catherine de los Santos, Mylene Buhat, Maria Fela Bel Cabral, Lovely Ochea, Ricel Gonzalvo, Cristel Austria, Jonel Lopez, Christian Ilaw, Jennifer Castillo, Debbie Casilla, Janeline Estrella, Angeli Tarayo, Marites de Guia Bolo, Marie Joan Labagis, and Maribel Lalong Isip.
Thank you. To the guests of the 2nd District, Batangas, Honorable Attorney Jervil Jinky Beatrix R. Luisro, the guests of the municipality of Bawan of District of Batangas, on behalf of Speaker Martin Romualdez, welcome to the House of Representatives. Good afternoon. Magandang hapon. Thank you. Majority Leader, please.
Mr. Speaker, today, being a Monday, and pursuant to our rules, I move that we open the privilege hour.
There's a motion to open the privilege hour. Is an objection? I hear none. The privilege hour shall commence and approve. Majority Leader, please.
Mr. Speaker, I now move that we recognize the Honorable Marcelo Libanan of the 4-Piece Party List to avail of the privilege hour.
The gentleman from the Party List 4-Piece, Representative Marcelino C. Libanan. Please proceed, sir. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen of this august chamber, I rise today on a matter of utmost urgency and national significance. On Christmas Day, while most of us were celebrating the holidays with our loved ones, thousands of our kababayans were stranded on the roads of Matnog town in Sorsogon. According to a report by the Philippine Daily Inquirer, at least 10,000 passengers bound for Visayas endured hours, if not days, of delay as vessel trips were suspended due to bad weather. These delays, Mr. Speaker, are not isolated incidents. They are a recurring reality for countless Filipinos who rely on inter-island travel to reconnect with their families, pursue economic opportunities, or transport goods. Every year during the holiday season, and even under normal circumstances, the port of Matnog becomes a bottleneck, exposing our kababayans to risks, discomfort, and lost opportunities. Mr. Speaker, these recurring challenges demand a bold and lasting solution, one that transcends temporary fixes and embraces the vision of a truly interconnected Philippines. That is why this representation stands before this chamber to call for the immediate passage of House Bill number 10748, a measure that mandates the construction of an undersea tunnel or bridge linking Luzon and Eastern Visayas. Mr. Speaker, why do we need this infrastructure project? First, this proposal addresses the chronic inefficiency of our inter-island transport system. The reliance on ferries and roll-off vessels exposes our kababayans to delays, disruption, and hazards posed by inclement weather. A fixed link, whether an undersea tunnel or bridge, will provide a reliable, safe, and all-weather mode of connectivity between Luzon and Eastern Visayas. Second, this project will serve as a catalyst to economic development by linking Luzon to the Visayas through Samar and Leyte. We create seamless access to markets, jobs, and investments. The enhanced connectivity will spur economic growth, tourism, agriculture, trade, and uplifting the lives of millions of Filipinos, especially in underserved regions like Eastern Visayas. Third, it will significantly enhance disaster resilience. During typhoons and other calamities, when sea travel becomes impossible, a fixed link will provide an essential lifeline for emergency response and the delivery of relief goods. It will ensure that our kababayans are not left isolated and vulnerable in times of crisis. Fourth, this project will create thousands of jobs, particularly during the construction phase of the project. This monumental undertaking will require a vast workforce, including engineers, construction workers, equipment operators, and support staff. The ripple effect of these job opportunities will extend to local businesses that will provide goods and services to the project, further stimulating the economy and empowering communities. Mr. Speaker, this vision is not an impossible dream. Other nations have successfully undertaken similar projects, such as Japan's Sikan Tunnel, the Hong Kong-Shuhai-Macau Bridge in China, the Øresund Bridge in Denmark and Sweden. These engineering marvels have transformed the lives of their citizens, and it is high time for the Philippines to embark on such a transformative endeavor. I acknowledge, Mr. Speaker, that this project will require substantial investment, extensive planning, and coordination among stakeholders. But I firmly believe that the benefits it will bring far outweigh the costs. By investing in this infrastructure, we invest in our people, our economy, and our shared future as a nation. Mr. Speaker, my esteemed colleagues, House Bill number 10748 is not merely about building a tunnel or a bridge. It is about building connections, building opportunities, and building hope for a better, more inclusive Philippines. Let us not wait for more stranded passengers, more lost opportunities, and more hardships to remind us of the urgent need for this project. Let us act now with courage and foresight to make this vision a reality. With this representation humbly call on this august chamber to support the immediate passage of House Bill number 10748. Together, let us lay the foundation for a more connected, resilient, and prosperous Philippines. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May God bless our nation and our people.
Daghang salamat, Minority Leader, 4Ps Party List Representative Marcelino C. Libanan. Majority Leader, please.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the Honorable Rufus Rodriguez for his interpellation.
The gentleman from Cagayan de Oro, Rufus Rodriguez, Congressperson, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Majority Leader Wilter, and our distinguished Speaker, our presiding officer, D.S. Mendoza. Would the distinguished Minority Leader accept some interventions from this representation?
Gladly, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, your bill and your privileged speech is apropos to what is now the present problem of the Visayas and Mindanao. Early on last year, Mr. Speaker, this representation likewise filed House Bill to build bridges, the bridges of hope, dreams, and development for Mindanao and the Visayas going to Luzon. This representation, in fact, as included in the Regional Development Council of Region 10, the proposal for the building of the bridge in Mindanao from Surigao del Norte, Lipata, to Leyte, and then having the second bridge from Alan Samar to Matnog, Sorsogon. Is the distinguished minority leader, are you aware that this representation filed this bill, and during the budget hearing of the budget of the DPWH for 2025, right in this very hall, in the presence of everyone, because I told them my bill will be of interest not only to my regional director, but to all directors of the entire country, especially Visayas and Mindanao. Is the author aware that this representation has filed a bill to have not only Visayas connected to Luzon, but also Mindanao connected to the Visayas, Mr. Speaker?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I am aware of, this representation is aware of the bill which was filed by honorable gentleman from Cagayan de Oro.
And thank you, because my bill is complementary to the bill, of course, of our minority leader, to have the bridge from Visayas to Luzon. Now, in my bill, in my study, the kilometerage of the Allen to Matnog, or a nearer portion, because there is, in fact, in Sorsogon, a nearer portion at Matnog. And also, in the case of Allen, we can look for some in Northern Mindanao nearer. The number of kilometers is only about 22 kilometers. Is the distinguished colleague aware of that? Does he have the same figure of 22 kilometers only to connect the Visayas to Luzon?
According to Mr. Speaker, according to the reports of NEDA, which conducted an initial study, there are two possibilities where this bridge can be constructed. One is that through a tunnel. If it is through a tunnel, it is around 22 kilometers.
Yes.
In other words, it can be shorter. But if it is through a bridge system, which interconnects other islands, I think it is about 28 kilometers. So,
very well. So the only thing is that I did not propose for a tunnel because that is really, very, very expensive. Did the NEDA already give the figures if we undertake a 22-kilometer tunnel or a 28 kilometers over a bridge, not a tunnel? Do we have also data from that? Because a tunnel may be very, very expensive and time-consuming.
Mr. Speaker, in last year during the interpellation on the budget of DPWH and NEDA, we asked about this study of NEDA on how much will it cost. Apparently, Mr. Speaker, there was a press release of NEDA which stated that it would require around 287 billion pesos. But they were not sure about the figures, Mr. Speaker. So we need an in-depth study on this, Mr. Speaker.
So the 287 billion, Mr. Speaker, our distinguished minority leader, is that for the tunnel or for the bridge?
It was for the bridge.
For the bridge.
It's 287 billion pesos, Mr. Speaker.
287 billion.
And if it is a tunnel, it will be more expensive.
Yes, it will be more expensive. Mr. Speaker and minority leader, in the case of the bridge from Mindanao to the Visayas, it will also be about 25 kilometers. And so therefore, Mr. Speaker, China has more than 8 bridges over 100 kilometers over the sea. Japan has 3, and we have made studies on this, over 100 kilometers. And Mr. Speaker, Minority Leader, my distinguished colleagues, if we are able to build these 2 bridges, as stated by the Honorable Minority Leader, and I appreciate him having his privileged speech on account of what has happened during Christmas to his constituents in Samar. If we are able to build this bridge, can you imagine, Mr. Speaker, right now, our produce of Mindanao going to Luzon is much more expensive than from Manila to Singapore and to Hong Kong. The shipping cost is really exorbitant. That is why our tomatoes in Misamis Oriental, they just get rotten. Because first, the shipment is very expensive and the price in Manila is a little lower. They will throw the tomatoes, tonnage of tomatoes. Not only that, we have cabbage, we have corn, so many products of Mindanao because Mindanao produces 60% of the country's food supply. 60% are from Mindanao. And so because of this exorbitant shipping cost, everybody would suffer because if we cannot ship it to Manila, tomatoes, onions, all the vegetables will have very high prices because there is no competition coming from production from Mindanao. That is why if there is a bridge, can you imagine, Mr. Speaker, we have a bridge, no need to go by boat from Cagayan de Oro to Luzon to Manila. We just go by car, Cagayan de Oro to Butuan to Surigao, and then take the vessel to Liloan in Leyte. Is that the same one, Majority Leader? Is that the president now in Leyte, Liloan, right?
That is correct.
Liloan. Then we proceed with Leyte to Samar, and we go to Allen, and then we go to Matnog, and we come to Manila. Not only good for goods, but also for people. That we are able to go to Manila, Mindanaonons will just take the bus, take their own transportation, and just drive or be brought by transportation companies straight to Manila without going through ferries. Because the ferries it takes time. When there is bad weather, the ferries stop operation. That's the reason why from Allen, we have a problem during this particular heavy rains and strong winds. So, Mr. Speaker, I really support the statement and the privileged speech of our dear Minority Leader from For Peace, who hails from Eastern Samar. His proposal and his privileged speech is a wake-up call to everyone, especially in this August Assembly, that probably in the next hearings, God willing, in the 20th Congress, there would be a start of a budget to be given to public works. In fact, I see here our chairman, the very debonair chairman of the Committee on Public Works and Highways, the great Romy Momo is here. And he has promised me that when we resume after Christmas, there will be a hearing of my bill. And of course, commensurately with the bill of the Majority Leader. So that when we approve this and send to the Senate, approve it, the first step of our bill will not be first to be able to bring and to put up money. But for a study, this bill, the bill of Minority Leader Libanan and mine, with our chairman, who is the most knowledgeable in the House regarding public works and highways, because he was the deputy speaker, deputy secretary, undersecretary on public works for Mindanao. So he knows. And so once that will be heard and approved here, it will go to the Senate, and that will now mandatorily direct, Mr. Speaker, direct the Department of Public Works and Highways to do a real, honest-to-goodness study on either a tunnel or a bridge. And then how to have that, and how much would that be, how many exact kilometers, the shortest line from Mindanao to Visayas, the shortest line from the Visayas to Luzon. And since we are very lucky that both of us now here, we see the presence of Chairman Momo, we urge and we plead to our committee chairman to call the hearing immediately, because this is good for Surigao del Sur, which Chairman Momo represents. It's good for Congressman Joboy Aquino, who is from Agusan del Norte. And also, Congressman, we have here Congressman Cordera of Agusan del Norte, Dale. So the three of them are here. And the fourth one from Mindanao being present. The others are taking snacks. But that's okay. They will be back. So, with this privileged speech, I'm very grateful. And therefore, would like to state my full support to the majority leader's privileged speech. And therefore, if we're able to have that bridge, Deputy Speaker Mayan Singson, Christine Singson can just take the car from going to Matnog, Sorsogon, and then go by car to Matnog, and then go by car to Samar, go to Leyte, go to Agusan, to Surigao, and then come to Cagayan de Oro. That is my standing invitation. So therefore, Mr. Speaker, once again, let me state my full support on the bill of our minority leader, and that together with my bill, we'd like to thank in advance Chairman Momo, who's called to have a hearing this week so that we will compel the Public Works to already start a study. Ito talaga pa Public Works kasi, they are based in Manila. Medyo malayo kami sa Mindanao. That's why Deputy Speaker, our good friend here, from Davao, we have here, she said, Corbett, said, who will also benefit everybody in Mindanao, everybody in the Visayas, everybody in Luzon will benefit, because we would like to welcome you to Cagayan de Oro, the city of golden friendship. So, with that, Mr. Speaker, I am very happy that we have our colleagues listening here, because once we do this, and once President Marcos and Speaker, our Speaker here, who is able, Martin Romualdez will be able to build this during their time. This will be called the Marcos Romualdez Highway. So therefore, we will be able to have this be completed during their time. And so therefore, we would like to ask the support of everyone so that everybody will be coming to Mindanao. Mindanao, Visayas will come to Luzon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. And congratulations, Minority Leader Libanan. So thank you.
Daghang salamat, maayong bagong tuig, Congressman Rufus Rodriguez. Minority Leader, please.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to extend my gratitude for the support of Honorable Congressman Rufus Rodriguez for this bill. And I would like to equally express my support to his bill so that we can construct as many bridges as we can. And hopefully, the chairman of the Committee on Public Works and Highways will schedule this so that if it involves too much amount for the construction of these bridges, it can be, Mr. Speaker, multi-year planning, and it will involve our technical people to do that. But this representation firmly believes that this is high time that we construct these bridges, because as I said a lot of speeches already, our people expect us to do the extraordinary feat so that we can be united and considered as one nation. And these bridges will enhance and support this connectivity of our islands, and for the purpose of easy and for the purpose of easy travel of goods and services to our people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Professor Rodriguez, and thank you to our dear colleagues. And I hope, Mr. Speaker, that this will be scheduled soonest. Thank you very much.
Well said, and at the same time, very productive 2025. Minority Leader, Congressman Libanan. Majority Leader, please.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the Honorable Olaso for his interpellation.
Kindly repeat.
The Honorable Olaso.
Gentleman from Zamboanga City, Congressman Olaso is hereby recognized. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, for recognizing me. Would like to ask our Minority Leader, Congressman Libanan, pertaining to his proposal of connecting bridges from Madnog to Allen. May I know if that is may I know if it is the same place that we're going to connect bridge, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair. Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, yeah. Yeah, because I'm in support of that bridge, Mr. Speaker. But the problem is technical problems. Would like to know if it is really viable to connect there. Because as you know, Madnog to Allen, the depth of the water is quite deep. It's not a shallow water. That's like San Francisco, USA, California. The water is quite shallow, so we can connect the Golden Gate. But in this situation, it's quite different. If we will connect bridges from the set point, I don't think so. It's viable. It's very impossible to do that because of the water depth. I believe that there are some depths of water there. It's over 500 meters depth. That is even as much the length of the bridge already. Sa foundation pa lang, medyo hindi na tayo matatapos doon, di ba? So I would like to know the technical details from the said sponsor. What is the technical details of the said bridge connected in that area? Kasi sabi ko, Mr. Speaker, hopefully, if we're connecting Visayas to Luzon, why not connect Basilan to Zamboanga City and Basilan to Jolo? Since these provinces of Jolo and Basilan, basically, most of the resource is coming from Zamboanga City. Now, the constituents there are having difficulties in delivering their goods into their provinces. Sabi ko nga, pag siguro meron na tayong tulay from Basilan to Jolo, vice versa, Zamboanga City and Basilan, vice versa, then most likely, we will be the most progressive region in the entire country. We are next to Singapore if we wanted to. Sabi ko nga, but then it's up to the national government to help us because these regions were left behind for so long. Now, I would like to ask our Minority Leader, if possible, if we can amend this resolution, if we can amend, kindly include Zamboanga City, Basilan, and Basilan to Jolo, Sulu. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Speaker, the honorable gentleman from Zamboanga City can file the appropriate bill so that it can be discussed in the committee. However, Mr. Speaker, on his question, whether this can be feasible, Mr. Speaker, Padma Bridge of Bangladesh is around 127 meters deep, and according to the Google, the depth of Matnog Allen, the deepest portion of that strait, is only around 47 to 50 meters. In other words, if Bangladesh was able to construct Padma Bridge, then we can construct this. However, Mr. Speaker, we need really a study. We really need a study to go into the details and technical considerations on this bridge. Because, Mr. Speaker, technology would tell us that it is no longer only building a tunnel or a bridge which can be feasible, but it includes building a floating tunnel, Mr. Speaker. A floating tunnel can be constructed also. So it depends now on our technical study, which can be conducted by an international organization. And, Mr. Speaker, I sincerely believe that a lot of international funding agencies, especially Japan, is interested to provide funds for this project, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, may I?
Please proceed, Congressman Olaso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much. I know that Japan is interested. I know that we will give it to foreign engineers who are expert in doing such. Hopefully, when this project will come into reality, hopefully, that there will no accident or any misconstruction with the project, because we want to prioritize safety since it will be the first in the Philippines. Now, the second question that the Honorable Libanan had spoken a while ago, that he asked me to propose that bill here in the House of Representatives. That is why I am asking him if he can amend his bill. It's simply because I proposed several resolutions in Congress but never addressed, Mr. Chair. That is why I'm coming here. I'm asking the good gentleman if he can amend, even though he's from the Visayas, if he can amend, to please include Mindanao, because I proposed such resolutions, so many resolutions and bills, it was not approved by the House. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
With that information, Mr. Speaker, this representation would include the bill of the representative from Zamboanga City for the bridges he is proposing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Libanan. God bless you and good luck in your journey.
Muchas gracias, Congressman Lasso. And dengan salamat, Congressman Libanan. Majority Leader, please.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the privileged speech of the Honorable Libanan, as well as the interpretation of the manifestation of Honorable Lasso and interpretation of Honorable Rodriguez to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate actions.
There's a motion to refer the speech of Congressman Libanan and its manifestation. Any objection? The chair hears none. That motion is approved. Majority Leader, please.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Bernadette B.H. Herrera of the B.H. Party List to avail of the privilege hour.
BH Party List, Congresswoman Bernadette B.H. Herrera of the BH Party List. You are recognized, ma'am. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues in the House of Representatives. Today, I rise not just as a legislator, but as a voice for the countless ordinary Filipinos who tirelessly strive to make ends meet. Our jeepney drivers who brave the streets before the sun rises, our delivery riders who rush through rain or shine, and our single parents juggling multiple responsibilities. I speak for every private motorist who uses their vehicle not for luxury, but as a lifeline to take their children to school or earn a living by moving people and goods. These are the stories behind every vehicle we see on the road, and it is their struggles, their sacrifices, their hopes for a better life that compel me to stand before you today. We are here to discuss a measure that seeks to abolish the compulsory third-party liability insurance, or the CTPL, a requirement that on the surface may seem like a minor inconvenience. After all, the annual cost of CTPL insurance is more or less only 1,200 pesos. But for the jeepney driver, the delivery driver, or the solo parent struggling to stretch every peso to cover their family's needs, this amount is anything but insignificant. For many of us, owning a car or utility is a matter of convenience. But for countless others, it is their lifeline. The tricycle driver in the province, the jeepney operator in the city, the delivery truck owner by trying to meet deadlines, all rely on their vehicles to put food on the table, send their children to school, and provide for their families. Yet every year, they are burdened with registration requirements that cost not only time, but also hard-earned money. Money that could have been used for their child's tuition, their family's medicine, or even an extra meal on the dining table. For solo parents, the challenges are even greater. Imagine a single parent raising 1, 2, or even 3 children on their own. Every peso they earn is carefully budgeted. That 1,200 pesos spent on CTPL insurance could have been used to buy additional school supplies, pay for electricity, or purchase the medicine their child desperately needs. These parents, who shoulder the enormous responsibility of being both provider and nurturer, deserve a system that supports them, not one that imposes unnecessary financial strain. Under the current regulations, all motor vehicle owners are required to secure a compulsory third-party liability insurance to register their vehicles. While well-intentioned, this requirement has become redundant and impractical. I repeat, redundant and impractical. Most motorists already avail of a comprehensive motor vehicle insurance, which provides broader coverage, including already a third-party liability, theft, own damage, and passenger personal accidents. The reality is that CTPL insurance is unnecessary for the majority of vehicle owners, yet we compel them to pay for it every year. Dapat, kung meron ka ng comprehensive insurance na existing, hindi mo na dapat i-require pa ng CTPL. I-present mo ang comprehensive insurance mo, dapat waive na ang requirement na ito. For instance, when new motor vehicles are purchased through loans from commercial banks, comprehensive insurance is already required as part of the financing agreement. This ensures adequate protection not only for the vehicle owner but for the third parties. And in the case of public utility vehicles, PUVs, not only is CTPL insurance mandatory, a separate requirement for passenger accident insurance is likewise required, which is currently offered by just 2 providers, PAMI and SCCI. So doble po ang kailangan kunin ng mga PUVs natin. What's more, CTPL insurance offers limited protection, capped at only 200,000 pesos. And even with its modest coverage, the sad truth is that hardly anyone claims from the CTPL. Natural, kasi kung meron kang na-aksidente ka, yung insurance company, you can only submit naman an original document to one insurance provider. The process is often cumbersome, riddled with red tape, and inaccessible to those who might not benefit from it. Victims of road accidents are often left wondering if they will ever see the assistance promised to them. Wala pa po akong kilala na nakapag-avail sa CTPL. On the other hand, comprehensive insurance, which most vehicle owners already have, provides adequate and practical protection. It addresses not only third-party liability, but also theft, accidents, and damage to the insured vehicle. By abolishing the CTPL requirement, we eliminate redundancy while ensuring that every motorist and victim of road accidents is adequately protected. Dapat, ang kailangan lang ng CTPL yung walang comprehensive insurance na existing. This reform is not about simplifying processes or saving money. It is about dignity. It is about ensuring that every peso earned through hard work goes toward building a family's future, not towards unnecessary costs. My dear colleagues, I urge you to remember the faces behind those statistics. These are the mothers who drive their children to school, the fathers who work late into the night to make ends meet, the young workers who juggle multiple jobs, and the public utility vehicle drivers who endure long hours just to bring home money enough for the day. These are also the solo parents who, despite the odds, persevere for the sake of their children. Their resilience inspires us, but they should not have to bear burdens that can be lifted through sound and compassionate policy making. This measure is an opportunity to show our people that we, as their representatives, see their struggles and are willing to act. It is a chance to replace inefficiency with fairness, confusion with clarity, and financial strain with relief. Lastly, Mr. Speaker and my fellow legislators, we often speak of making life better for the Filipino people. Today, let us turn those words into action. By supporting this bill that I will file, we send a powerful message that this House listens, that this House cares, and that this House acts in the best interest of every Filipino. Thus, I ask you to stand with me in championing this cause. Let us not just pass a bill. Let us pass hope, fairness, and compassion into the lives of millions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May our efforts today bring lasting change. Mabuhay ang sambayan ng Pilipino. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Honorable Herrera. You are the leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move to recognize the Honorable Franz Castro of the ACT Teacher Party List for her interpellation.
Honorable Franz Castro is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank Representative Bernard Herrera for raising this up. Actually, isa rin ito sa tinatanong ko, Mr. Speaker, dahil redundant ito. Kung di nyo po na itatanong, personal din akong nagpaparehistro nung sarili naming sasakyan. Kaya nagtataka ako kung meron ka na kasing na-apply o meron ka ng hawak na comprehensive insurance doon sa car. No, it covers na lahat yun, di ba? May third party na rin yun. Pero, Mr. Speaker, nagtataka ako, bakit nire-require ka pa ng LTO mula dun sa loob ng kanilang opisina, no? I'm sorry to tell this, LTO. So, mula dun sa loob ng kanilang opisina o sa loob ng kanilang na mag-apply ka pa rin ng another. Ito talaga, Mr. Speaker, dagdag gastos ito doon sa mga milyong-milyong may-ari ng mga sasakyan. Lalong-lalo na nga, kagaya na sinabi ng ating colleagues na struggling din naman ito eh. Hindi ko mo meron kang sariling sasakyan, ay kayang-kaya man bayaran yung lahat ng yung mga ganito. So tingin ko rin po, ako po ay sumusuporta sa privilege speech ni Representative Bernadette Herrera kaugnay dito. At ito po ba, ang tanong ko lang, Mr. Speaker, are you planning to file a bill to abolish itong TPL? Or mas mabuti siguro, Mr. Speaker, gawan din natin ito ng House resolution para maimbestigahan itong mga practices na ito sa LTO.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, I will file a bill first thing later or tomorrow. Nandiyan naman na sa akin yung bill. Hinintay ko lang makapag-privilege speech ako so I can file it. But I can also first file a House resolution para kung anong mas mabilis. Kasi I'm trying to check with LTO. Baka pwedeng on their own, pwede na nilang i-cancel eh. So tinitingnan ko anong basis ng kanilang compulsory third-party liability. Kasi para sa akin, para ka nang may third-party liability kung may comprehensive ka na eh. So that falls under compulsory na rin. Hindi naman sinabi siguro ng batas na kumuha tayo sa LTO eh. Ang importante, compulsory sa every motorist na meron kang insurance. Diba? So baka sa LTO alone, mai-out na nila to kasi para ka na rin may compulsory third-party liability insurance kung may comprehensive ka. Yes. Ibang perspective lang. Di po ba? Yes. At saka hindi lang to sa motor vehicle, pati sa mga motorcycles, sa mga tricycles, lahat ito requirement. Kaya ang 1,200, napakalaking bagay kung maaalis. Total, di ba pag may insurance ka, coverage, pag nag-apply ka ng document, isang original document ka lang naman eh. So you won't be able to claim to 2 insurance companies ng third-party liability. So talagang para kang nagbayad ng walang kwentang expense.
Yes, so tama yun, Mr. Speaker. Karamihan naman ang nag-struggle na magkaroon ng sariling sasakyan ay yung low, middle income group. Kaya, Mr. Speaker, kung magagawan ito ng paraan na matanggal sa LTO sa mga requirements or additional na bayarin, bali makakatulong ito no, dun sa ating karaniwan ng ating mga mamamayan, yung low, middle income group. No, na gusto rin natin silang na matulungan at hindi madagdagan ng burden. Kasi lalo na ngayon, Mr. Speaker, pataas ng pataas ang transportation expense, no? Tataas ang LRT fare, tapos ito mataas din yung gasolina na ini-endure din ng ating mga kababayan na may mga may-ari ng sasakyan. Kaya talaga, Mr. Speaker, suportahan natin ito. no, suportahan ng kinatawang ito, itong move, no, na para maalis itong TPL insurance na ini-impose ng LTO sa ating mga commuter or sa ating mga motorist, no, yung owners ng mga sasakyan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Salamat sa ating kinatawan, Bernadette Herrera.
Thank you, Representative Castro.
Thank you, Honorable Castro. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we refer the privileged speech of the Honorable Herrera as well as the interpellation of the Honorable Castro to the Committee on Rules for its appropriate action.
Is there any objection? Here stand the privileged speech of Honorable Bernadette B.H. Herrera, and the manifestation of Honorable Franz Castro is referred to the Committee on Rules.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we recognize the Honorable Raul Bungalon of the Ako Bicol Party List for his privileged speech.
The Honorable Representative Raul Angelo Hill Bungalon is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, good afternoon. Ako po yung maharap sa inyo ngayon upang manawagan at bigyang diin ng isang kwento ng hinagpis, kawalang katarungan at kapabayaan. Ang pagkawala ng isang ating kababayan na si Ralph Anthony Bobiles, isang seafarer na overseas Filipino worker. Ito po ay hindi lamang isang trahedya ng isang pamilya, kundi isang kwento ng maraming pamilyang Pilipino na umaasa sa kanilang mga mahal sa buhay na nagtatrabaho sa ibang bansa. Ang kwento ng pamilya Bobiles ay sumasalamin sa sistemang tila nagkukulang at pagbibigay ng proteksyon at suporta sa ating mga OFW na tinuturing nating mga bayani ng ekonomiya. Noong 4 ng Disyembre 2024, huling nakipag-usap si Ralph Anthony Bobiles sa kanyang ama. Masaya niyang ibinalita na tapos na ang kanyang kontrata at hinihintay na lamang niya ang abiso ng kanilang kapitan kung kailan siya makakauwi ng Pilipinas. Ang saya at pananabik ng pamilya ay biglang napalitan ng pangamba at takot na ang noong December 6, tumawag ang asawa ni Ralph sa kanyang ama upang ibalita na nawawala si Ralph sa Gulf of Mexico. Agad namang kumilos sa ama ni Ralph at tumawag sa Parola Maritime Agency Corporation, ang agency na nagpadala sa kanyang anak upang kumpirmahin ang masaklap na balita. Nang makausap niya ang kinatawa ng ahensya, kinumpirmi nila na nawawala nga si Ralph mula noong December 5 habang ang barko nilang Prestige Ace ay paalis mula sa Veracruz, Mexico, patungo ng Baltimore, USA. Sa kabila ng pangakong magbibigay ng impormasyon, tila walang konkretong sagot o aksyon ang Parola Agency. Tinawagan nila ang ama ni Ralph noong December 7 at sinabing kailangang pumunta ito sa Maynila para pag-usapan ang insidente. Ngunit sa kanilang pag-uusap, wala ring maayos na resulta o paliwanag na naibigay sa pamilya. Labis itong nakadagdag sa sakit at kalituhan ng mga mahal sa buhay ni Ralph. Dahil sa kawalang aksyon ng ahensya, nagdesisyon ng ama ni Ralph na umuwi sa Bicol at lumapit sa inyong lingkod para magbigay ng gabay at tulong. Agad po tayong kumilos at ipag-ugnayan sa Department of Migrant Workers at sa Overseas Workers Welfare Administration or OWA upang mabigyan ng tulong ang pamilya ni Ralph. Sa tulong ng OWA Bicol, Department of Migrant Workers at DFA, sinigurado nating magkaroon ng suporta ang pamilya ni Ralph. Noong ika-6 ng Enero, taong 2025, nagharap-harap ang ama ni Ralph, ang inyong lingkod, at ang Parola Agency at ang legal counsel nila sa tanggapan ng DMW. Subalit, sa kabila ng mga pangakong kanilang binitawan, na natiling walang konkretong resulta o sagot na nabibigay sa pamilya. Noong araw din na yon, sinabi ng abogado ng Prestige Ace na sisimula na ang imbestigasyon ng Panamanian authorities. Hanggang ngayon, ang barkong Prestige Ace ay nakadaong sa Veracruz, Mexico. Ngunit hindi pa rin malinaw kung papayagan ang isa sa mga anak ng pamilya Bobiles na makasampa sa barko upang mag-imbestiga sa pangyayari. Ang desisyon ukol dito ay inaasahang lalabas sa darating na January 17, 2025 sa isang meeting kasama ang DFW. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished colleagues, malinaw ang kapabayaan mula sa parole agency at sa kumpanya na nagpapatakbo sa barkong Prestige Ace. Una, ang mahigit na 6 na oras na pagkaantala sa pag-uulat ng pagkawala ni Ralph noong December 5 ay isang malinaw na pagpapakita ng kapabayaan ng mga opisyal ng barko at kumpanya ng Prestige Ace. Ayon sa mga ulat, si Ralph ay unang napansin na nawawala bandang alas 10 ng umaga. Ngunit ang opisyal na ulat ay sinagawa lamang bandang alas 5 na ng gabi. Ang ganitong tagal ay lubos ng hindi katanggap-tanggap sa ganitong sitwasyon kung saan ang oras ay napakahalaga, lalo na kung may posibilidad na ang nawawala ay nasa panganib sa karagatan. Ang bawat segundo sa ganitong mga kaso ay maaaring maging pagkakaiba sa pagitan ng buhay at kamatayan. Kung iniulat agad ang pagkawala, maaaring mas maagang naisagawa ang search and rescue operation na nagbigay sana ng mas mataas na tsansa na matagpuan si Ralph. Sa halip, ang kababayaan ng mga opisyal ng barko ay nagresulta sa pagkantala ng aksyon na maaaring nag-alis ng anumang pagkakataong mailigtas ang ating kababayan na si Ralph na nahulog sa tubig. Ang ganitong kawalang ng sense of urgency ay hindi lamang pagpapakita ng kakulangan sa profesionalismo, kundi direktang banta sa buhay at dignidad ng kanilang mga manggagawa. Sa halip na agarang kumilos, pinahaba pa nila ang paghihintay na nagdulot ng dagdag na pasakit at kawalang pag-asa sa pamilya ni Ralph na umaasa sa agarang tugon. Pangalawa, ang teoryang inilabas ng kumpanya na si Ralph ay nagpakamatay sa pamamagitan ng pagtalon mula sa kanyang cabin ay hindi lamang hindi kapanipaniwala, kundi isa ring malinaw na insulto sa dignidad ng pamilya Bobiles. Paano nila may papaliwanag ang ganitong pahayag kung ang bintana ng kanyang cabin ay hindi diretsyong nakaharap sa dagat, kundi bahagi pa rin ng istruktura ng barko? Ang ganitong pahayag ay tila isang desperadong pagtatangka upang isantabi ang kanilang responsibilidad sa pagkawala ni Ralph. Sa halip na magbigay ng malinaw, detalyado at makatotohanang paliwanag, tila mas inuuna pa nila ang pagtatago ng mahalagang impormasyon. Isa na rito ang CCTV footage ng barko at ang Voice Data Record or VDR na maaring makakapagbigay linaw at liwanag sa mga nangyari bago mawala si Ralph. Kaya sa mga ganitong sitwasyon, hindi natin maialis na may cover-up or foul play na nangyari. Hanggang ngayon, patuloy nilang ikinakatwiran na kailangan pa nilang humingi ng pahintulot mula sa may-ari ng kumpanya upang mailabas lamang ang footage. Isang dahilan na walang ibang idinulot kundi lalong pagdududa. Ilang linggo na ang lumipas, ngunit wala pa ring resulta o konkretong aksyon mula sa kanilang panig. Ang ganitong pagkukubli ng impormasyon ay hindi lamang nakakagalit. Ito rin ay nagpapalakas ng hinala na mas may malalim silang pilit na itinatago. Ang CCTV footage at ang VDR ay maaaring magbigay linaw sa tunay na nangyari. Bukod sa CCTV, malinaw din ang kawalan ng transparency ng kumpanya at kapitan ng barko sa hindi pagbigay ng mahalagang ebidensya tulad lamang ng black box data, logbook at port documents na napakahalaga sa pagsisiyasat sa pagkawala ni Ralph. Ang black box ay makakapagbigay ng mga teknikal na detalye ukol sa nangyari sa barko sa oras ng insidente, habang ang logbook ay dapat naglalaman ng mga opisyal na tala ng lahat ng aktibidad at komunikasyon ng crew. Ang mga dokumentong ito ay napakahalaga para malaman ang kabuuang pangyayari, ngunit hanggang sa ngayon ay hindi pa rin naibibigay sa pamilya o sa mga otoridad. Dagdag pa rito, makikita rin natin ang malaking kapabayaan ng mga opisyal ng barko ng Prestige Ace. Ang kapitan ng barko bilang pinakamataas na opisyal sa Prestige Ace ay may pangunahing responsibilidad na tiyaking ligtas at accounted for ang bawat tripulante sa bawat yugto ng kanilang biyahe. Ang port documents, partikular na ang crew list or crew manifest, ay isang obligadong ulat na dapat isinasampa ng kapitan sa bawat port na dinaraanan ng barko. Ang dokumentong ito ay dapat malinaw na nagtatala ng bilang ng mga crew na umalis sa Veracruz Port, Mexico at dumating sa bawat port tulad ng Baltimore, Georgia at Jacksonville. Kung tama ang mga dokumento, agad sana itong nagpakita na may nawawalang crew member pagdating nila sa Baltimore pa lamang. Kung naipahayag itong maaga, maaring na-hold ang barko sa unang port of destination para magsagawa ng agarang investigasyon. Ngunit, ang tuloy-tuloy na paglayag ng barko mula Mexico hanggat sa iba't ibang port ng United States na para bang walang nangyari ay nagpapakitang malalang kapabayaan at posibleng pagtatakip ng pagkawala ni Ralph. Kung maayos na naitala at naiulat ang kulang na bilang ng crew, agad sana itong naging dahilan upang aksyonan ang sitwasyon. Ang ganitong uri ng kapabayaan ay kailangang panagutin dahil ito'y malinaw na paglabag sa kanilang tungkulin at isang kawalang respeto sa buhay at karapatan ng kanilang mga tripulante. Pangatlo, kapansin-pansin din ang naging kapabayaan ng kumpanya ng Prestige Ace na isang Panamanian vessel na makipag-ugnayan sa mga tamang kinauukulan. Bilang isang Panamanian registered vessel, ang Prestige Ace ay may obligasyon na agad inulat ang pagkawala ni Ralph sa mga Panamanian authorities, ngunit malinaw na may malaking kakulangan sa kanilang kilos. Bakit inabot ng halos isang buwan bago magkaroon ng aksyon mula sa principal o sa Panamanian authorities upang magsagawa ng investigasyon? Ang mga regulasyon sa international waters ay malinaw. Anumang krimen o insidente ng pagkawala ay dapat agad iulat at aksyonan sa ilalim ng flag state jurisdiction. Ngunit sa kasong ito, tila walang ganitong paggalaw. Mas nakakalungkot pa. Sa halip na ihinto ang biyahe upang masusing siyasatin ang insidente sa unang port of destination, nagpatuloy ang barko sa iba't ibang port na para bang walang nangyari. Ang hindi pag-hold sa barko ay hindi lamang nagpapakita ng kawalang malasakit, kundi nagtatanggal din ng oportunidad na makakuha ng agarang ebidensya o impormasyon mula sa crew at barko mismo. Kung agad na naimbestigahan ang barko sa unang port of destination, maaring naliwanagan na ang kaso o natagpuan ang anumang bakas na magpapakita kung ano ang tunay na nangyari kay Ralph. Ang ganitong kapabayaan ay hindi lamang nakakaalarma. Ito ay nagpapakita ng tahasang pagpapabaya sa buhay ng isang tao at responsibilidad ng mga institusyon na dapat sana'y nagpoprotekta sa kanila. Sa parte naman ng agency, napakalaki rin po ng naging pagkukulang. Ang agency na dapat sana'y katuwang ng pamilya Bobiles sa paghahanap ng hustisya ay tila nagkukulang sa kanilang tungkulin at nagpapakita ng malinaw na kawalang malasakit. Sa mga unang araw matapos ang pagkawala ni Ralph, ang agency ay halos walang maibigay na malinaw na impormasyon o direksyon sa pamilya. Sa kabila ng mga paulit-ulit na pagtatanong at pakiusap ng ama ni Ralph, tila wala silang malinaw na plano para agarang makipag-ugnayan sa kumpanya ng barko o sa mga kinauukulan o otoridad upang maimbestigahan ang insidente. Hanggang ngayon, maraming mahalagang dokumento at impormasyon na hinihingi ng pamilya ang hindi pa rin naibibigay ng nasabing ahensya. Ang mabagal nilang kilos at kakulangan sa koordinasyon ay dagdag pasakit sa pamilya na araw-araw ay naghihintay ng sagot at hustisya para kay Ralph. Ang ganitong uri ng kapabayaan ay hindi lamang isang simpleng pagkukulang. Ito ay isang tahasang pagpapabaya sa tungkulin bilang na dapat nilang gampanan para protektahan at tulungan ang ating mga manggagawa sa ating ibang bansa. At higit sa lahat, Mr. Speaker, isa sa pinakamalaking pagkadismaya ng pamilya Bobiles ay nang nagkaroon sila ng meeting sa Maynila na kung saan imbes na ang management ng kumpanya ang humarap upang magbigay ng linaw at paliwanag tungkol sa pagkawala ni Ralph, ang kanilang insurance representative lamang ang dumalo. Inuulit ko, isang insurance representative. Nakaka-offend ito dahil ang pamilya na nagdurusa sa pagkawala ng kanilang mahal sa buhay ay dumating na may pag-asa na mabigyan sila ng sagot. Ngunit sa halip ay tila binaliwala ng ang kanilang hinaing. Ang pagpadala ng isang insurance ay nagpapahiwatig na ang kanilang focus ay tila nasa pera o claims, na para bang ang buhay ng nawawala ay isang simpleng usapin ng kompensasyon. Hindi ito usapin ng insurance. Ito ay tungkol sa accountability at justisya para sa isang mahalagang buhay. Ito ay tungkol sa pamilyang naghahanap ng kasagutan sa kanilang mga katanungan at umaasa na ang kanilang mahal sa buhay ay buhay pa. Subalit, ang pinakitang asal ng nasabing ahensya ay hindi lamang kawalang sensitibidad, kundi isa ring tahasang insulto sa pamilya na naghahanap ng liwanag sa gitna ng kanilang pagdadalamhati. Mr. Speaker, si Ralph Anthony Bobiles ay hindi lamang isang manggagawa. Siya ay anak, asawa, ama at isang bayani. Tulad ng maraming OFW, tiniis niya ang lungkot at hirap ng pagtatrabaho sa ibang bansa para lamang sa kanyang pamilya. Ngunit ano ang isinusukli sa kanyang sakripisyo? Kawalang malasakit, kapabayaan, at kawalan ng hustisya. Ang kanyang pamilya, tulad ng maraming ibang pang pamilyang Pilipino, ay nangangarap lamang ng magandang buhay. Ngunit ngayon, sila ay nagdurusa sa kawalang katarungan at kakulangan ng aksyon mula sa mga institusyong dapat sinay tumutulong sa kanila. Habang ang karamihan sa atin ay nagdidiwang ng Pasko, kasama ang ating mga mahal sa buhay, ang pamilya ni Ralph ay nagdaan sa isang Pasko puno ng lungkot at pagdadalamhati. Sa halip na saya at pagtitipon, ang kanilang tahanan ay napuno ng mga tanong, luha, at kawalang kasiguraduhan. Ang isang amang dapat sana'y nagpapasaya sa kanyang mga anak at isang asawa na dapat kaakbay sa pagdiriwang ay biglang nawala. Isang matatawarang sakit na lalo pang pinabigat ng kawalan ng malinaw na sagot at justisya. My dear colleagues, panahon na po upang tayo'y tumindig para sa mga Ralph Anthony Bobiles ng ating bayan. Panahon na upang siguraduhin na ang mga institusyong dapat nagpoprotekta sa OFW ay ginagawa ang kanilang tungkulin. Kaya naman, nananawagan ako sa Parola Maritime Agency Corporation at sa kumpanyang nagpapatakbo ng Prestige Ace. Tapusin na ang pagpapalusot. Ibigay ang CCTV footage at ang voice data record. Tumulong ng buong puso sa investigasyon. Ibigay ang lahat ng mahalagang dokumento at higit sa lahat, pakita ang malasakit sa pamilyang Pilipino. Hinihikayat ko rin ang ating pamahalaan, lalo na ang Department of Migrant Workers, ang Department of Foreign Affairs at OWA na tiyakin ang agarang resolusyon sa kasong ito. Panagutin ang may sala dahil ang ganitong kapabayaan ay hindi dapat pinapalampas. Hindi natin maaaring hayaan na ang ganitong kapabayaan at kawalang katarungan ay maging pagkaraniwan na lamang sa ating mga bayani sa ibang bansa. Ang pagkawala ni Ralph ay isang paalala na dapat nating bigyang halaga, hindi lamang ang kanilang sakripisyo, kundi pati ang kanilang karapatan at dignidad. Maraming salamat, Speaker, at mabuhay ang ating pong mga OFWs.
Thank you, Honorable.